when I was a student, the memory project was a mandatory assignment that all incoming 9th graders had to do in their civics class. You had to go out and interview someone who was either a family member, community member, part of your church congregation, so on and so forth, and go out and talk to them about an experience in their life which they had experienced discrimination or seen someone being discriminated against. And that was the intent of the memory project at the time: create these stories, curate them, try and create an archives of sorts, and see if we could help bridge a divide between what had happened here in Little Rock in 1957 and also what happens in people's lives that are not as famous as what took place here, but that nevertheless kind of fall into the same vein. I can tell you a little bit about what my own experience with the Memory Project was like when I went through it as a student, and that was, I went out and I talked to my grandmother, and she was a part of a group called the Women's Emergency Committee, which was established in 1958. After the integration of Little Rock Central High School in 1957, what ended up happening was that pretty much right on the heels of that, the governor issued 3 executive orders that more or less shut down all the public high schools in Little Rock for an indefinite period of time. And the governor had these plans to shut them down, and then the school board voted on and approved his plans. And in a snap special election that was held here in the city of Little Rock, the white voting majority of the city, a majority of these white voters who made up the voting population of the city at the time, voted to approve these plans as well. So public high schools were shut down. And so for a period of time called the Lost Year, between 1958 and 1959, this missing school year, if you had been a student in grades 10 through 12, high school at that time, you didn't have public high school anymore. You had to figure out what you were going to do with your time. You could go to a different school, you could move to a different city and go to a different school there. You could go, if you were white, you could go to newly formed private academies because only public schools had an integration mandate at that time. You could also try to do basically the precursor to Zoom courses today, which was to watch a televised lecture by educators. You could write down your assignments, your answers to the assignments they were giving, and then mail off your assignments to be graded and get your grades back. So a number of choices for those who had the means. For those who didn't have the means and were often disproportionately communities of color or families of color, your options were more limited. A number of families, including some of the 9 themselves, just ultimately ended up moving out of Little Rock altogether as a result of that. But while all this was going on, there was a group that was set up called the Women's Emergency Committee, a group that was originally put together by 3 very pro-integration white women here in the city. They wanted to try and push back against what they felt was an overreach of the governor. And they began to mobilize and recruit other like-minded white women here in the city, while at the same time trying their best to create as moderate a position at that point in time that they could to make it as appealing and as large a movement as they could amongst white women in the city, arguing that regardless of one's personal feelings on whether integration should be a thing, it was unjust to shut down the public high schools in the city for this particular issue. Now, the crux of the issue wasn't whether or not the public high school should be open. That was always going to be the case, so that anyone, regardless of segregation or integration, wanted public high schools to be open, although in what capacity was the real question. For the segregationists, they wanted to return to how things were before Brown versus Board. They did not want the schools to remain open with an integration mandate in place, and with an integration plan. So in essence, what had happened was that the governor's attempt to shut down the high school was an attempt to force the school board to get rid of its integration plan and its integration mandate here in the city. The Women's Emergency Committee was very much of the position that the integration plan should remain in place. So what they ended up doing over the course of the remainder of the year was organizing and phone banking and recruiting and mobilizing to make their voices heard, to organize a recall election to get pro-segregation school board members replaced by members of a new school board that would keep that integration plan in place and reopen the high schools. In this, in the long run, they were ultimately successful. All of which is a very long backstory of which to say she was part of an important group in the city's history. So I talked with her about what had motivated her to join, and what had inspired her to do that, and what her personal feelings on the matter were. So for me, I thought it was a very good thing because I had never really talked with my grandmother about that before, and about her own personal feelings on the matter. So that was a very profound thing to do, and I was very grateful for the Memory Project allowing me that opportunity to do that.